ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नमो ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतारे श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनीति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषशून्यवादी पश्चातादिशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। So we're going to start our discussion on the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, titled as Dhyana Yoga. And the main subject matter, just to do a quick recap for all of you. Bhagavad Gita begins with Arjuna asking a question to Lord Shri Krishna. In fact, he confesses, "My dear Lord, I don't know what to do, what decision to make at this point of time. I'm entirely bewildered. My consciousness is so covered over that I don't know what is right, what is wrong. Please tell me what is the right thing for me to do." And like that, Bhagavad Gita begins, which means when an inquiry is raised by Arjuna, now Bhagavad Gita, now Krishna begins to speak. And the very first thing Krishna answers, or Krishna tells Arjuna, "Who am I?" And that's how the Bhagavad Gita begins with. And Krishna says, "Arjuna, you're not just this body, you are more than this body." And science also recognizes that, according to science, we exist at two levels. At the body level, what is called as physical, and at the mental level, what they call in their language as metaphysical. However, Bhagavad Gita and the Vedic sciences across the whole Vedic paradigm talks about not only the physical and the mental, but also talks about the spiritual level. Now, in case if we have a spiritual identity, which is entirely opposite to matter with this physical form. So being in a physical body right now, we have certain responsibilities just for the sake of maintaining this body. That is called as swadharma. Many of you are professionals. Many of you may be married and have kids, and you're providing for them, but when they grow up, they have to take care of themselves. So Arjuna says, "Okay, my dear Lord, so far until now I have been taking care of myself, thinking that I am this body, but if in case you tell me I'm more than this body, how does my tomorrow looks different than today?" Then Krishna talks about, yes, there is something called as swadharma for your body, and there is something called as nitya dharma for your soul. So the responsibility that you carry out for taking care of the physical self, that's called swadharma, and the responsibilities and the duties that you carry out to take care of your spiritual side, which is your real identity, that is called as nitya dharma. And that's how the discussion of Bhagavad Gita begins. And in essence, Lord Shri Krishna talks about the success of life depends on harmonizing swadharma with nitya dharma. Life should not become swadharma versus nitya dharma. When life becomes swadharma versus nitya dharma, then some people, they completely ignore their spiritual identity and they just focus on work. And therefore they say work is worship, work is passion. And some take another extreme side where they stop working and they artificially take to the path of renunciation, saying that life is only about taking care of spiritual self. And that is what Arjuna was struggling with. He was thinking, if I fight, it would be a sinful action. Therefore, I should stop action and I should take to the path of renunciation. But that's not the instructions of Bhagavad Gita. Krishna says, no. Life is meant to be lived. Life is not meant to be given up. What needs to be given up is secondary. What needs to be accepted is primary. which means often you might have seen we focus a lot on what we don't want. Rather than Krishna says, rather than focusing what you don't want or what the negative is, just focus on the positive thing, what we should acquire in our life. And to harmonize this concept or dichotomy together, it involves controlling the mind. Therefore, Bhagavad Gita, which is also known as Yoga Shastra means which tells you how to connect yourself with the divine. It all depends and begins with harmonizing your mind, controlling your mind. So just to give you an idea, Patanjali Yoga Sutras, great yoga teacher, Ayarji, right? Yoga teacher Ayarji, who was from Pune, he would follow this Patanjali Yoga Sutras. According to Patanjali Yoga Sutra, what is a mind? Patanjali Yoga Sutra compares mind to a monkey. Why? Just mind, a monkey is known for its restless nature. It cannot stay at one place. And that is how it is compared to a monkey, which means mind is so chanchal and so restless. The moment you try to focus on something, by that time the mind is thinking of something else. How many of you have had challenges with focusing and concentration? Raise your hand. We all identify the problems with the mind. Like that, the subject matter begins with. Now, the mind is restless. That was the original definition. But if Patanjali had to be present today, how would he define the nature of your and everyone else's mind? And he would say, well, mind is still a monkey, but it's not only a monkey, it's an intoxicated monkey. Not only an intoxicated monkey, the monkey which have drank 1 or 2 bottles of beer or wine. No, not only that, a monkey who's drunk and whose tail is tied with a thorny bush. And that thorny bush is pricking his body again and again. Not only that, the monkey have drank, he is intoxicated, his tail is tied with a thorny bush, but that monkey has been kept in a cage with many scorpions around and which are biting him constantly and consistently. That would be the state of our mind today. So what it means, what does it mean? Monkey who has been intoxicated, that means intoxicated with false pride and false ego. रिश्ते में तुम्हारे बाप लगते हैं, नाम है शहंशाह, whatever it is, the dialogue you want to call it. So like this, we, in today's time, everyone thinks, I'm something. There's nothing wrong about thinking, but they forget whatever they are, there are always people better than you. And we are always in a race to prove I'm better than others. That is intoxicated monkey. Now what is pricking us? That is anger. Because our desires are baffled at every moment, we are so short-tempered and agitated. Do you feel that people today smile less and their face looks more grumpy? And they have forgotten to smile, so that the yoga teachers these days have introduced a smiling exercise. What they call as a laughter exercise, isn't it? अर्ली मॉर्निंग आपको हा 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 आवाज़ सुनाई जाती है क्योंकि लोगों ने हंसना बंद कर दिया. Anyways, jokes apart, but do we really not laugh much today? Would that be correct? We are always so much absorbed with so many things. So anger, that is pricking. But what is biting? What is biting an individual today? That is envy. The moment we see somebody else progressing far better than I, how it hurts, how it pinches. That would be the state of a living entity's mind today. Is that right or wrong? If that would have to be defined for today, that's what. So we are living in a very difficult time, filled with temptations, desires, and distractions. There's so much to produce all kinds of desires. In this situation, such a tempestuous situation today, what yoga path can be advised so that the goal of yoga, wherein we can control our mind and connect ourselves with the Supreme Lord, becomes easy? It got to be easy. For example, how many of you have ever visited Ayurvedic doctors? Raise your hands. Ayurvedic doctors. I remember taking my parents for the first time to Ayurvedic doctor, and my mother was so upset. While returning back, she chastised me all through. मैंने कहा यार अच्छे काम करो तब भी गालियाँ पड़ती हैं. मैंने कहा what happened? Why are you so angry? बोला वो डॉक्टर था, पागल था. मैंने कहा क्यों, क्या हुआ? अरे इतना महान डॉक्टर है वो. She said what महान डॉक्टर? खुद ने तो कुछ करा नहीं, सारी की सारी दवाई बनाने का काम मुझे दे दिया. अब दिन भर उसके अनुसार मैं दवाई बनाती रहूँ, because in Ayurveda you have to make your own medicine many times, and then 10 o'clock you take this, 10:30 you take that, 11 o'clock you take that. Well, what? He has made me a nurse or what? Whole day I keep making medicine. I'm not taking. Anyways, the point I'm trying to raise here is, if in case the solution becomes complicated, although how good it won't be effective, it won't be accepted. Yes or no? So for today's day and time, and anyways, the greatest pandemic is of one disease that is called as no time disease. In such a situation, when everyone have this very famous excuse, I have no time, there we propose something which is as complicated as different parts of yogas. How would it work out? Therefore, this chapter 6, which is called as Dhyana Yoga, here Lord Shri Krishna is providing a comparative study of different kinds or different types of yoga path. And then Lord Shri Krishna concludes what is the easiest path. Now, of course, the question arises, what is yoga? We were talking about mind, nature of mind. And why are we talking about yoga? We'll come to it. I'll give that answer in a short while. Let's take a look. Let's begin with this discussion. This chapter has 47 verses, and we'll begin quickly. So the first 9 verses of 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, titled as Dhyana Yoga, talks about the concept of enemy or a friend. And what is that? Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita as follows. Chapter number 6, verse number 5. Let's recite. Udharadatmanatmanam. Everyone. I promise dinner is there. Don't worry. Say it loudly. You're trying to preserve your energy. I don't know for what. Okay. Udharadatmanatmanam. Natmanam avasade. Atmaiva hi atmano bandhur. Atmaiva ripuratmana. This whole concept of enemy and friend is pretty interesting. According to one great scholar, he said, when we come out in this world, we evaluate everyone on 3 parameters. You know what are those 3 parameters? Oh, this is my enemy. Oh, this is my friend. Oh, this is neutral party. And that's how we look around. Yes or no? If you look around, survey around, you can very easily say, this is my friend, this is my enemy, this is okay, this is neutral like this. So who is actually enemy or friend? Krishna says, not that what you look outside of you. Your greatest enemy and greatest friend is not outside of you, is within you. And this concept was extremely astounding when I first time came across. And what is that? A controlled mind is the best of the friends. An uncontrolled mind is the worst of the enemy. And herein it becomes extremely important for me to introduce what mind is. I'll do that in a short while. What is mind? What are the functions of mind? Now Krishna says controlled mind is best of the friend. What does it mean by controlled mind? Which means you dictate terms to the mind and mind functions accordingly. How a normal man or how a normal individual's life is governed, mind has 3 functions: thinking, feeling, and willing. Thinking means thoughts, dhyayato. Have you ever had an experience? Have you ever thought something? Maybe you're thinking right now also. That is mind. That's how you realize you have mind. Feeling means emotions. Have you ever had an experience, you decide for something, or let's say, let me put it this way. Do you have emotional attachments to certain things? Let's say you're working in a job and you have your own idea how the job should be and how I should be progressing in a year or 2 from now. That is called an emotional attachment. In other words, I want to see myself in such a certain situation. That is called as feelings. All that sense of feeling, maybe the negative or the positive feeling, it's all part of a mind. Thinking, feeling, and lastly is willing, which is just a step before you physically perform an action. Willing means go ahead and do that action. These 3 functions are of the mind, which means everything about us is governed and dictated by the mind. Your state of mind would indicate your experiences of life. If somebody says my life is horrible, sorry, your life is not horrible. your state of mind is horrible. I say that again. Somebody says my life is horrible. No, your life isn't horrible. By the way, whose life is not horrible? You can die at any point of time. You can fall sick. You can lose your job. Anything can happen at any point of time. Yes or no? From that perspective, everyone's life is horrible, but you feel it horrible. It's just because your mind has become horrible. And if your mind is filled with positive thoughts, then you'll find even the terrible place to be livable. And that's how this mind functions. So through this chapter, Lord Shri Krishna says, if you want to be progressive and if you want to harmonize life, we need to take control of our life in our hands. And that is not easy. That's challenging. And therefore, Lord gives an advice how to make the mind as a friend. Bandhuratmatmanastasya yena atmaivatmana jitaha anatmanastu shatrutve vartitatmaiva shatruva. Bandhur atmatmanastasya yena atmaivatmana jitaha. Jita means conquered. One who has conquered the mind becomes best of the friend. What is meant by conquering the mind? Which means you dictate what should be done. Now, what does it mean, I dictate? If everything is governed by the mind, then who dictates to the mind? Are you getting a question here? Let me put it in more fundamental. We exist at three levels: physical, at psychological, this is physiological and psychological, and something what you can as paranormal or what is spiritual. Now, largely we consider ourselves to be a body. Now, this body is nothing but as much as equivalent to this table. This is made of earth, water, fire, ether. Similarly, this body is also made of earth, water, fire, ether. This body is active, animated right now because of the presence of a spirit soul. When spirit soul is out of this body, that is called as death. So, have you ever seen a dead body? The person who you loved is still there. If he's still there or she's still there, then why do we call that person to be dead? Why is this person inanimate now? If the body for which we cared so much is still there as it is, it's just because the spirit soul is missing. So now, when it is said, the mind, control the mind, I'm giving it as a food for thought for you to think right now. When Krishna says, for him who has conquered the mind is the best of the friends. Who conquers the mind? The body cannot conquer the mind. So how do you conquer the mind? In other words, your mind should follow your dictations rather than you following the dictations of your mind. Am I making complicated? Yes. No. So मुझे समझ नहीं आया किस तरफ आप एंगल दे रहे हो. Okay, let's try. Let me try a little psychology here. So, according to modern psychology, our mind is said to have two states of existence, which is called as healthy and unhealthy. And so, according to psychology, the quality of life depends on the quality of thoughts. Your thoughts form the world around you. Have you got a pen and paper? If in case you have not, if you have a smartphone, let's just do a quick exercise. Let's see where we are. Kids, piche. So, the first thing that you want to ask for yourself, this is keep it confidential. You can take out your smartphone if you want to write it. At least do some brainstorming right now. We're talking about mind. Your thoughts define the quality of your life. And here is my question to you. What kind of thoughts do you often have? The thoughts of fear, the thoughts of scarcity, the thoughts of animosity, the thoughts of giving love and affection to others, doing good to others, or the thoughts of harming others. What kind of thoughts you have? You can take a while, just take 5 to 10 seconds, write it for yourself. And you can maintain your confidentiality. I am not going to ask you to answer. Trust me. So write bindas, whatever you want to write. And don't worry, I know your answers. So aap likho, khushi likho, that's fine. So what kind of thoughts prominently you have? If in case you write 2, 3, 4 points for that. Now you can count in that how many positive or negative thoughts are there within you. Which means whatever during the day or whatever you think generally is predominated by nice, kind thoughts, which is looking at others in terms of, such a nice people we have around us, such a nice world we live in, or thoughts where I'm fearful, I'm in anxiety, what will people take it from me, how much wrong has been done to me, how will I take my revenge, when will I get an opportunity to, something like that. Just write down, is it positive or negative? So it is said, the very first function of the mind is thinking. What it means is this: the thoughts that we carry defines our likes and dislikes, which means belief system. So what you believe in is dependent on the thoughts that you carry. Belief in the sense, like say, the kind of food you like, the kind of clothes you wear, the kind of movies, the novels, the people you associate with. Everywhere we have likes and dislikes, and for all of us it varies. And it all depends on what kind of thoughts we carry within our mind. That defines our belief system, and that belief system defines our lifestyle. Our lifestyle refers to behavior and action. Have you seen for example, have you ever seen a horror movie here? How many of us seen a horror movie? Often there are a lot of horror movies come out. Is there less horror in the world that you need more horror movies to come out? I don't know, you're laughing. Yes or no? When there is anyways so much suffering in the world, like all kind of highly sadistic movies at time comes out. One of the last movie that I saw in my life, which I still carry a pain in my heart, is Ghazni. It was the most sadistic movie that I ever saw. Terrible, terrible movie. And that made me detached from movies. I'm happy for that. I'm grateful for the director. I took my attachment from the movies. So my point is, when there is anyway so much suffering, okay, how many of you say the life is becoming more and more difficult and complicated? Yes or no? Raise your hand. Life is becoming more of a struggle now. It's not so easy to really live our life as we thought. Life every day is a constant struggle. Which means if life is becoming more and more difficult, or if life is difficult, why do we have all kind of this negative movies around us to make it more difficult? The only reason is because we like watching that. And if we like watching that, which means that is where our mind is attracted to. And where our mind is attracted to is where we like and dislike. And for those horror movie lovers, you give them a Tom and Jerry movie, they will not sit for 5 minutes also. It's entirely, don't consider for yourself, you might be in somewhere in between. But I'm talking of those who are hardcore horror movie lovers. I'm giving a little extreme example here. So what I'm saying is, when you see variegatedness, it all depends on the state of mind. So when you see a certain behavior, don't blame the person. It is not about him. It is about his mind or her mind. If we want to address the problem in a particular action or a behavior or a conduct, it's just not going to help by telling that person how wrong you are, how bad you are. We got to fix his way of looking at things. His mind has to understand what am I doing is wrong. There are people, just like Mragari the hunter, we had a classic example in Puranas. His joy of life was killing animals, half killing the animals. He would shoot an arrow at a spot so that the animal would not die immediately, but would suffer and struggle to die. And Mragari would sit there and watch through this suffering. And that was his greatest joy. So we have all varieties of people, and those varieties have been produced because of different kind of situation over here. So if we want to change, in other words, the kind of lifestyle we live, actions we perform, it further strengthens our thinking, the thought process, it further strengthens our belief system, and it becomes a vicious cycle. We just cannot break it either here or here. We have to change the thinking of that person. Lifestyle cannot be changed by just telling that person how wrong you are, how bad you are. We have to change. Therefore, for example, the prisoners behind the prison cell, they all are there because of certain wrong actions. Yes or no? When they are put behind the prison bar, if in case you have any understanding of this, do you expect or do you believe those who go behind the prison bar, when their physical self have been put into a difficult situation, physical body has been put in a difficult situation, after 5 years of spending a time in prison, they come out and their lifestyle have changed? Yes or no? How many of you think it's changed? Or how many of you think rather it becomes more worse? They become more hardened criminals. What do you think about it? Generally, statistically, nothing changes for them. In fact, for many of them, they become more hardened criminals. Why they become hardened criminals? They had a better association outside the prison. When they moved into the prison, they had a more worse association. And in that bad association, they become more hardened criminals. Why? Because Jaisa Sang Vaisa Rang. What kind of people you associate with, that's the kind of thinking you develop. Nothing have been done to change their thinking. Rather, they've been put into a bad association where their bad thinking is further strengthened. And therefore, nothing changes them. In other words, the subject matter, what it indicates, if you have to change anything within ourselves, the fundamental problem is changing our thoughts. Change your thoughts and change your world. To give an example, how everything is belief driven, or all behavior or actions is belief driven, is a classic example of Srila Prabhupada. In 1945, Japan is bombing Calcutta, and there was the alarm, the siren all over the place. Srila Prabhupada, as Abhay Charande, was frying kachoris in his kitchen for his Madan Mohan deity. And the neighbor came running, Abhay Charande, don't you hear the bleeding sound of the siren? We have to go and hide in the bunker. Please come, please come. And Abhay Charande, if Krishna wants to kill anyone, nobody can protect. If Krishna wants to protect anyone, nobody can kill. And Srila Prabhupada ji, as Abhay Charande continued frying kachori, offered it to his deities and happily ate. Nothing changed. Whereas for others, they were just running around, scared. It's all a subject matter of what's over here. That's how the reality is created. In other words, how our thoughts are created, if I have to ask you a question. Behavior is governed by your thinking. Your actions are governed by your behavior, by your belief system. So what creates thinking? The kind of thoughts that we have, what creates that? Like I asked you to write down, what are the prominent thoughts that come into your mind? From where did you got that? What is the origin of it? Information. What else? All kind of thinking that we have comes from two kinds of associations. First association, let's say of information. If you are too used to watching news, you are living in a very terrible world. There is no hope for peace and happiness. The doomsday is just tomorrow morning. India-Pakistan conflict just has begun already. And that's where you're living. Yes or no? सनसनी. मेरे समय में हफ्ते में एक बार सनसनी खबर आती थी. When we were kids. Now you switch on the news anytime. Sansani. 24/7 Sansani. And that's the reason people are. I remember when I traveled around, at one place I was giving a public address. There were almost close to 1,000 participants there. And there were many teachers also. When my talk ended, one of the teachers got up and he asked the question. He said, Swamiji, what is the point of wisdom of Bhagavad Gita when we are living a life in so much fear? I said, that's where the wisdom of Bhagavad Gita is needed, to alleviate your fear. Why are you fearful? He said, are you not fearful? I said, why should I be fearful? Why are you fearful? Swamiji, don't you know? There is always a threat from Pakistan shooting a nuclear bomb. I'm so fearful. If in case Pakistan does that, what will happen to my parents? I said, if it does or not, anyways, you cannot do anything about your parents. With the time, the death will come and everyone has to move on. You sitting here, this thing was in Kolhapur, I believe. This was in Kolhapur. And your parents are living somewhere up in north. If you're so much worried about it, better call your parents here. Sitting here being fearful about Pakistan will shoot. And I said, after my 1.5 hour of lecture, This is the only question you had in your mind. What if Pakistan shoots the nuclear bomb? So you can understand how much he was obsessed with fear. And the reason for it was he was too much watching some news channels that you can figure it out, which was frightening. So, information. If you're too much used to watching news, no worry, no wonder about it. Will be fear-stricken. Similarly, there are a lot of people who are too much tuned into watching movies, and whatever it is, at the end of the day, these are fictitious stories. Particularly, this is action movies. In South India, we have a very famous star, Rajnikantji, and his action movies are unbeatable. And if somebody is used to from his childhood watching those action movies, he may consider those fictitious story to be real. Imagine, I remember when childhood days, those WWE things used to come. If boys have seen it, and you will see the slam shot and whatnot. रात को सपने में यही आता था कि मैंने अपने क्लासमेट को ऐसे स्लैम शॉट दिया है. So to whoever you had little disturbance in relationship, and that's why you'll give an Undertaker slam or Yokozuna slam and whatnot. So imagine somebody grown up watching this kind of a fictitious movie. Particularly Rajnikant is known for creating astounding action scenes. I remember a childhood watching one movie. He was driving what you call as truck. He came out from the truck. He has his Tamil special lungi style. He was wearing a Tamil style lungi. He came out and there were 20 men standing blocking his road. And every one of them had a big bamboo stick in their hand. And he was nothing. He didn't have anything in his hand. He came down, lifted his dhoti, took out a bidi, put a bidi in his mouth, lighted up the bidi and put it in his mouth, and he got ready for a combat. Before getting into combat, he picked out or took out the bidi from his hand. He threw it up in the sky. Psst. He went out, beat the hell out of those 20 men, came back to the same spot and raised his mouth up. And the bidi came and fell in the mouth. So it's good you and I can laugh at it. But those who are too much used to watching such things, imagine what life would be. If some foolish guy really think you can fight like this, maybe he'll end up burning himself before he can do anything. So what you watch, what you hear, what you see creates a very astounding effect on our consciousness, and that's the point. Not only movies, not only media, kinds of books we read. As Mother said rightly, information. This is where we develop a kind of thinking that we have. So any amount of negativity that we carry in our life can be washed off if we changed our sources of information. And if we replace the sources of information from such kind of fictitious things to the wisdom books like Bhagavad Gita, Ramayana, Mahabharata, where you have classic examples of courage, tolerance, chastity, determination, valor, whatnot. And reading that, meditating on that, now you develop a good conduct. And that's how you have a people of good conduct in the society, because the sources of information is correct. So that is one kind of way you cultivate your thinking process. And second is association of individuals. It is said, find out the 5 individuals with whom you regularly associate. You are nothing but an average of those 5 individuals. The people with whom we associate regularly, we are nothing but the average of those 5 people. If you call yourself average, it's just because of you're associating with average people. If you want to change yourself, you got to fix your association. So why don't you take a quick minute here? Again, this is just for yourself to write it. Can you just pen out what are the 5 most important relationships of the people with whom you regularly associate? From where you draw your inspiration or way of living. What are the 5? And you can think of it about them. You'll find yourself what you are today, how you live, how you conduct yourself is nothing but the sum and average of those 5 personality types. And if in case you're looking for a change, maybe you want to change your association a little bit. It's good for a short while. Why don't you do that quickly? Just write down. I know it's going to be a little difficult, but just think about it. What are the 5 people who we really associate? We're not talking about information. If you want, you can think of the things that you watch too often, read too often. You can take care of that later on. But 5 people right now. And like this, We can change our thinking by changing the sources of information, by changing our association. Change your thoughts, change your world. When our mind is filled with negative thoughts, the best of the relationship becomes worse. But when our thinking process changes, when our looking at the world changes, even if the relationship which is not working out, we're willing to try it out. We'll be willing to give a chance. And look, today the world has not evolved. The world has devolved. We are not progressing. We are not becoming happy. The happy marriages are expiring even before reaching any thresholds. Even marriages today don't last for 3-4 years. Some marriages don't last even 3 to 4 months. This is not a happy state of society today. Something is really wrong at the fundamentals, because of which, despite having all the material comforts, we are somewhere still struggling with our basic needs. It's just because of our association is wrong. So potential of the mind, control mind, act as a friend. So how do we control the mind? We were talking about it. So as we'll see here in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, when it is said controlled mind, which means somebody must dictate something to the mind. Do this, do not do this. For example, for a child, who controls the mind for a child? It is the dictations of the parents. It's the dictations of the teacher. You can do this, you cannot do that. We all have grown up now, but our mind has not grown up in a situation that we have a control on it. So who controls us today? At least kids had somebody to tell them what is right and what is wrong. Who do we have today for us to tell us what is right, what is wrong? Or do we believe whatever we do today is absolutely correct? We are beyond any kind of ramification. So here scripture says, Guru, Sadhu, and Shastras. The instructions of a spiritual teacher, the instructions of the scriptures, our life should be governed and dictated by these. We're talking about training of the mind. So how do we train the mind? We train the mind by taking instructions from spiritual teacher, from wisdom book or spiritual book like Bhagavad Gita. If you want to take the training of a doctor, you join a medical college and you take a training and instructions from professor there. If you want to take a training to become a sports person, you join a sports academy where you take a training from a coach. If you want to become or take a training to build your muscles, a body, then you join a gym and take a training from a coach, isn't it? For if everything we need a training, and we need somebody to train us, so we need somebody to train our mind. And who trains the mind? It is through spiritual instructions coming from a spiritual teacher or a spiritual book like Bhagavad Gita. That is how our mind gets trained up. Now a question for us to ask. Do we have a spiritual book? Do we have a spiritual personality in our life that tells us what to do, what not to do? Or that defines what is right, what is wrong? If it is not, then we are living with an uncontrolled mind. And the consequences of an uncontrolled mind is an agitated, restless, and a miserable life. Despite what your destiny may give you, you will always be dissatisfied. That's it? I deserve this much only? I deserve far better than this. How can the other person get better than I? It is meant for me. And we always keep on saying, I am a victim, I am a victim, I am a victim. This is the symptom, a symptom of an uncontrolled mind. Let's move forward from here. So, how to train our mind to make it as a friend? So, the 4 options. Follow its dictations. This is a quick quiz for you. How to train your mind to become your friend? Follow its dictations? Yes or no? Yes or no? Yes. How many are yes? Khade karo haath. To control your mind, you follow the mind. Hare Krishna. सो रहे हो जाग रहे हो? मैं कोई फ्रेंच नहीं बोल रहा हूं. आवाज सुनाई दे रही है ना? How do you control your mind? By following the mind. Okay. By following the instructions of spiritual teacher and spiritual book? Yes or no? Okay. Following the advice of my lovely friends? Pakka, दोस्त बैठा तो नहीं है? Okay, that can also be extended to your family members. Watching prime time news and recent movies to become, ready for the society. So following the instructions, we'll take a look at it. Fine. So after introducing the subject matter, then Krishna gives an answer how to train the mind. And he says the process of training the mind is called as yoga. And there are different kinds of yoga. I will come to that in a short while. Let's take a look at what Krishna says in a sequential order as per Bhagavad Gita. Krishna begins to speak about Ashtanga Yoga from verses 10 to 36. Why Krishna is speaking about the concept of Ashtanga Yoga? As I said, he's doing a comparative study describing different yoga paths, then to help us understand what is the easiest and the best way to do it. And Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who can be a better person to tell us what is the best yoga? Therefore, he talks about Ashtanga Yoga. What is Ashtanga Yoga? Anga means limbs, Ashta means 8. This yoga practice has 8 limbs. It begins with Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana, Samadhi. Yama, Niyama means social and spiritual injunctions. Yama, Niyama. Asana means different sitting postures, exercises that you might have seen many yoga teachers do today. Pranayama means breathing exercises. And then we have Pratyahara, controlling the senses. Then Dharana, Dhyana, Samadhi. It might seem like simple and easy, but the basic requirement to do any of these things is you have to quit your IT job. I'm talking to IT professionals, therefore I'm saying quit IT job. Krishna said, leave everything, go to the forest. The fundamental requirement to be qualified as a student of Ashtanga Yoga path or a Dhyana Yoga path is you have to give up worldly life. No family life, no friends, nothing. Go to the forest. And then it's its own journey of austerity and difficulty that you have to do it. I like that Krishna says, so this is the path at one point of time, the yogis, the practitioners will do that. Okay, it's all good. But the difficulty is only not this that we break our relationships in this world, we give up things and go and take the path of renunciation. The greatest difficulty is it's a very long process. It's so long, so long, so long. Many times it never ends. It just goes on life after life after life after life. It's very, very. So therefore, when Arjuna heard all this set of verses about practicing brahmacharya, doing this, doing that, all kinds of austerities, then Arjuna said, Krishna, mission impossible. And he really meant it. Nothing happening. Not like Tom Cruise movie where he makes it happen. No. He said, this Ashtanga Yoga, nothing working. Krishna said, अरे यही तो समझाने के लिए बोला था तेरे को. Because you are thinking of quitting your Kshatriya duty and go into the forest and perform meditation. Understood? Arjuna said, yes, understood. Very well understood. My dear Lord, what can I do? So this slide is hardly visible, that's okay. Why it is impractical? This is briefly mentioned. So in other words, why this Ashtanga Yoga is impractical for today's day and time? For particular age, first of all, we have a very short life. Even in this short life, if you go to the forest, Geo connection would not leave you there also. Geo has got brilliant connectivity. You will get distracted and you will end up watching some Netflix movies there. Otherwise, you'll go on YouTube and learn about how to do yoga in the forest. So there are all the chances that you may get misguided and come back to the IT world. So not good option. Don't do that. So short life, lot of temptations, lot of distractions, and that's it like this. Now, this is the nature of the Kali Yuga. In fact, Arjuna is saying it's not possible when Arjuna was so qualified, so talented, so self-controlled. If he's saying ain't possible, sapne bhi mat dekhna. और ये जो सारे एडवर्टीजमेंट आते हैं ना कि हम ऐसे कराएंगे वैसे कराएंगे, आप सांस यहाँ से लोगे तो सांस वहाँ से निकलेगी, वो सब ना सब झोल है वो. हाँ, Krishna is saying it doesn't work. This is all cheating, doesn't work out. So all this modern day yoga practices, modern imitation yoga schools are condemned, because what they do, they cheat us from the actual goal of yoga. And they have converted yoga only in a physical exercise just to keep body in a healthy condition, where we keep on engaging with sense objects more and more and keep on degrading our mind more and more. That is not the objective of it. So Arjuna says, why it is mission impossible, my dear Lord? I just can't do it, going to the forest. And Arjuna says, why it is impossible? He says, to be able to go to the forest and to do meditation, I got to have some control on my mind. But the nature of the mind is, please repeat after me, Chanchalam hi manha Krishna Pramathi ballava dradham Tasyaham nigraham manye Vayuriva sudushkaram. So here three qualities of the mind are being described. And the first is chanchalam, where Arjuna says, mind is restless, flickering. So why don't you just take out your pen and diary again, write down these three nature. The first nature is restlessness, called as flickering. What does flickering means? Have you ever seen when there is a lower voltage and that the bulb will flicker? On, off, on, off, on, off, on, off. What does flickering means? I want it, I don't want it. I want it, I don't want it. I will go for the evening program. No, I will not go for the evening program. I will go. And then no. And then depending on what's your inner strength or not of a lack of inner strength, accordingly, wrong or the right decision is chosen here. Arjuna says, my dear Lord, mind is too restless and I am the victim. I brought you from Dwarka to Kurukshetra. And I only told you, nahi ladenge. Can you imagine how restless the mind is? I only went all the way to bring you from Dwarka after you're standing here, and we have already blown our conch, the siren have been blown, now the fight is about to begin. अभी मैं कह रहा हूँ प्रभु क्या करेंगे युद्ध करके? आप जो द्वारका मैं जाता हूँ जंगल में. So this plus, this is on and off, that's a flickering nature. How many of you have experienced trouble in making decisions? Raise your hand. That is what flickering nature. Karu ya nahi karu? Nahi karu ya karu? And that's on day in, day out, our battle goes on. Yes? So what Arjuna is saying, correct? How can some fool and rascal call Bhagavad Gita as mythological? Which talking about your and my reality, isn't it? Okay. अभी तो शुरुआत है, आगे आगे देखो क्या होता है. अभी तो बहुत सारी पोल खुलेंगी हमारे मन की. Fine. The next he says about Chanchalam hi manaha Krishna Pramathi Ballava Dhradam. Ballav means bal, strength. Dhrad means determined, which means strong and obstinate. Which means एक बार पैर रख दिया नहीं हटाएंगे. Which means if once decided, बस अब तो होकर ही रहेगा. And the classic example is young kids. You see how you see this quality of mind very much into them. If they decide something, and if you don't give it to them, how much they cry, yes or no? And they will just cry and cry. हमारी स्थिति बदली नहीं है. हम रोते नहीं, हम चिल्लाते हैं. That's the only thing. We become angry. There is no point for them to become angry because they're dependent, so they cry. In our case, when our mind has decided to do something and others are saying, don't do it, at our stage, we begin to curse people. We become angry. Yes or no? So that's the difference. But point is, our mind is still uncontrolled. And how dangerous it is. How many of us have had to undergo situations because of the mind where we regret later on. Why did I do it? What was the use of it? Didn't do anything good. Not to me, not to others. Just take a 5 second, think about it. Did you had any situation? You don't have to answer me. Did you had a situation where you later on regret it? What was the point for it? And when you were doing it that time also, you knew it was wrong, but you were helpless. You were helpless. Against your wish, you were pushed into it. From the beginning, you knew it ain't gonna be good. But you just had no control on yourself. How many of you had that situation? Have you had that, gone through that? Each one of us have gone through this. And that's the time we understand how helpless, how hopeless we are. We have no control. And Krishna is saying, I will give you the wisdom by which you can gain the control, and you don't have to become victim to your mind again and again. And that is what this nature of mind, which is uncontrolled, spoils the quality of life. Yes or no? How many of you think those things where we were pushed into doing, knowing that it is wrong, and I was helplessly pushed into because of my mind? If I had the ability to say no to it, my quality of life, my quality of relationship would have been far, far, far better. How many of you agree with this? Yes or no? Which means when Krishna says here, when you control your mind, mind becomes the best of the friend. It is in whose favor? So Krishna is speaking for our goods. And we, as our owners, to take into practice. Obstinate and strong. And the third nature is pramati, which means turbulent. Which means our mind, it has no limit of how shameless and reckless and harsh it can become when it has decided to fulfill its desires. It can break all the walls of rules and regulations, ethics, culture and tradition just to fulfill its attachment. Where we are willing to cross all the boundaries. And that is why it is said the mind is so powerful. It is not that the thief who is stealing from somebody's, or the one who is killing somebody, he doesn't know what would be the consequence of his action. It is not that he or she doesn't know what I'm doing is wrong. They just have no control to say no to themselves. They just helplessly push into it. And that's how. So here Arjuna expresses, Krishna, if this is what is the state of my mind, how do you expect me to go to the forest and perform certain yoga practice to control it? It is not practical. And Krishna says, my dear Arjuna, you got it. It is just not possible. But he doesn't say like this. He says, asamshayam mahabhaho durnigraham manochalam. Asamshayam means without a doubt. Mahabhaho, mighty armed Arjuna, without a doubt. Manaha durnigraham chalam. To control the mind is difficult, but not impossible. Then how do you control the mind, my dear Lord? Krishna says two things. Abhyasena tu kaunteya, vairagyena chagrihate. Abhyasa means suitable practice. Vairagya means detachment. What is detachment? We'll talk about it. Let's talk about the practice. I should have it over here. Practice. Practice makes possible. And this is the verse that I just quoted to you, Sri Bhagavan Vacha. This is the 6th chapter. That's the wrong verse number. This is 36, not 35. So, practice. What practice? Abhyasena. And Krishna says, just like when you go to an allopathic doctor, when you go to a doctor, he gives you a certain medicine course. And he tells you in the morning before breakfast, in the afternoon after lunch, in the evening after dinner, and one dose before sleep. This is called as course, which means you have to do it for 3 days, 5 days, 7 days, depending on the severity of your illness. If you do it, you'll be cured. Similarly, abhyasena, to cure the mind of this disease, we have to practice. Now, can you imagine our mind has been uncontrolled from the beginning of the time? It ain't overnight function. It is not that just for 2 days, if I do it, it'll be okay. It doesn't work like this. It gradually begins to change. जैसे हिंदी में कहा जाता है कुत्ते की पूंछ टेढ़ी की टेढ़ी ही रहती है. मतलब वैसे माइंड टेढ़ा है, सीधा हो जाएगा, but we have to have patience and apply the right practice. So what is that right practice? Let me ask all of you a question here. Some of you or most of you might be aware of the subject matter which we just discussed, how mind is so strong. Have you ever figured out a way for yourself? How can you control your mind? If I ask you now, you have understood the problem statement, what do you think could be the possible solution? Based on your understanding of life, how can you control your mind? Before I give Krishna's prescription, I've just given you the hint, prescription I have not given. What would be, according to you, the way to control the mind? Okay, before I ask this question, do we all agree here there is an urgent need to control the mind? Because it's just going beyond the limits. And we just saw some examples of it in our life, how it has been destructive. Great, negative and all. So if you have understood the urgency for it, now how do you fix it? How do you fix it? Go to a psychologist, take some sleeping pills. लंबा सोऊंगा प्रभु जी, जागूंगा ही नहीं तो करूंगा क्या? Problem जागने में है. The more I remain active, the more my mind remains wild. Mindful meditation. What is mindful meditation? So mindful meditation in precisely means be present. That is my question. How to be present? That is a goal of mindful meditation, be present. That is not something which happens today. That is a goal. But what is mindful meditation? What do we do in mindful meditation? Control our breath. Okay, that is called as pranayama. That is part of Ashtanga Yoga. Breathe in. So the best way to do is when you breathe in, focus between the eyebrows. Because this is where you have this, I forgot the Sanskrit word, mula here. When you focus here, it harmonizes the energy in the whole body. Breathe in and breathe out. That is one way of doing it. But the catch here is, the moment you stop this breathing exercise, first of all, you can't do it for long. You'll get exhausted very quickly. The moment you stop doing it, Nitai Gaur Haribol, you're back to the same thing. You're back to the same thing. So mindful meditation is the answer. But what meditation would fix it is what we're discussing now. Any other answers from here? Yes. Go ahead. Replacing the wrong thoughts with the right thoughts. Somebody has to tell us what we're thinking wrong first of all. No? Everyone thinks what I'm thinking is the best. So say replace the wrong thoughts. How do you replace the wrong thoughts with right thoughts? Yes, we have some hands over here. Those who are new here, raise your hand. How do you think you can control your minds? Who is saying? Oh, yeah, go ahead. Awareness. What awareness? Okay, so very interesting thing she's saying, to know what we are thinking. How much do you know what you're thinking? There are so many things rushing through our head. If you want to know what we are thinking, when we sit down for meditation, that's the time you get to observe your thoughts. And that is the time, for the first time in our life, we have actually seen the most horror movie ever created in the world. And that is going through our mind only. So many wild thoughts. And you feel like, oye, ye mera hai? Ye mera bheja hai? How can I be thinking like this? How many of you have that experience? If you have ever done the meditation, you feel like, oh my goodness. And then, out of lack of proper knowledge, some people say, see, this is what meditation do to you. Because you're doing meditation, there's a reason you're having wrong thoughts. Not because of meditation you're having wrong thoughts, because of meditation you got to know awareness like this. So we'll come to the practice. What is that practice? Abhyasena. What is detachment? Krishna says twofold solution. He doesn't say just one thing. Just like I remember when in my childhood I would get sick. In those days when you go to a doctor, he will give you a medicine and he'll also give you a diet plan. He'll tell you what to eat, not to eat. These days you go to a doctor, it's a different thing. Even if you have a fever, he says, ice cream, no problem, खा लो. 2 दिन की दवाई और ले लेना. तो उनका वो business चलता रहता है. But if you remember earlier going to a doctor, and if your mother would ask, okay, ठंडा है, इसको fever हो गया है, so ये खाना है, नहीं खाना है, they'll say, yes, this you can eat, this you cannot eat. Which means along with solution, along with the medicine, there was also certain prescription. Medicine is meditation. What is meditation? We'll come to it. But what prescription it is? That is detachment. What is detachment? Detachment from the wrong things and cultivating attachment to the right things. So, from what we have to cultivate detachment to all this media, social media, the sources of information, which are very difficult for us to live without today. So, don't give it up. Replace the content of those things which you have. You got a smartphone, if you're habituated to read something, there are so many wonderful apps which talks about Bhagavad Gita, wisdom Bhagavad Gita, where you can read some quick shlokas, food for thought like that. Subscribe to Instagram stories or Facebook channels or whatever it is called, and YouTube and Facebook, where you have spiritual wisdom being served to you. This is where you have to take an initiative. If we are taking a medicine but our diet is wrong, it won't work. So, to really bring things under control, there has to be a determination to do it. And determination has to be preceded by a desire to do it. Do I want to do it? And if I want to do it, then only you will take steps required for it. So, coming to the conclusion of this chapter here, so Arjuna thought, what if one faithfully follows the yogic process but later falls away without perfecting his spiritual consciousness? Krishna says, which is such an obvious question because life is so challenging. It's always possible that we might get distracted from the path again. Krishna says, I know, but do not worry, my devotees never perish. After short practice, if in case they have got distracted from the short practice, if they practice meditation or the yoga, which Krishna is recommending, which we'll just come to it now, if somebody practices that yoga and he gets distracted after a short practice, then what happens in his next life? He attains to higher destinations or takes birth into aristocratic or rich families in the next life. What happened to those who did it for a long time and then got distracted? They took birth, their next birth is in a pious or a devoted families, which means from the childhood they get spiritual training. Now, final section of this chapter is when Krishna talks about all different kind of yogas. Krishna says, be a yogi. What is the conclusion of this whole first 6 chapters is, Arjuna, at all times be a yogi, which means while you're working individual or a house lady or whatever you are, do not lose on your building a connection with the divine. Your brightness or your effulgence or your contribution to the world depends on your connection with the higher powers. If this electricity or this tube light loses its connection, its all effulgence will go away. We all can become the beacon of hope and light and a direction in the lives of others when we ourselves are connected. Therefore, Krishna says, become a yogi. Everyone should be a yogi. Now, what does this yogi mean? Who is a yogi? Whose life and activities are aimed at establishing the relationship with the Lord is the first definition. So, what are the different types of yogas? Summing up the whole discussion, what we did here, there are 4 kinds of yoga, beginning with Karma Yoga. What is Karma Yoga? Karma Yoga means where you engage your senses, knowledge acquiring senses and working senses in relationship of the Lord by contributing the results of your work. What is Jnana Yoga? Mind, which means cultivating knowledge, spiritual knowledge, studying scriptures. What is Dhyana Yoga? Purifying your intelligence by contemplation and meditation. And what is Bhakti Yoga? Which means where you engage your senses, mind, intelligence, and soul, everything in relation to the Lord. We engage our sound, we engage our eyes, we engage our hands in the service of the Lord. Our mind, our intelligence, and automatically our Atma gets engaged. So, coming to a conclusion here, when we have so many different kinds of yoga, obviously question comes, what's good for me? Or else, what is the best yoga? So question is, who can tell us which is the best yoga? It's almost same as asking which version of Windows is the best? And the simple answer is the one who created it. He's still the author of Windows, or somebody else have taken the credit? There is a debate going on who created it. Anyways, I'm just joking. So the author of Windows or Microsoft can tell who is it. That's Bill Gates can say. Similarly, Krishna is the author of Bhagavad Gita. Krishna is the one who gave the knowledge of yoga. What does Krishna say? Who is the best yogi? Everyone. Yoginam api sarvesham madgatenantaratmanaha Shraddhavan bhajate yo mam Same yuktatamo mataha. Yoginam api sarvesham, the best among all the yogis, sarvesham, mad gatina antaratmana, who is always thinking, who is always meditating on me, within himself, who is always meditating on me. Shraddhavan bhajate, Shraddha means faith, bhajate means renders service, or serves me, or connects with me with faith. Faith comes from knowledge, not sentiments. Same yuktatamo mataha, among all the yogis, who are always thinking about me, is considered to be the best. And what is that process of always thinking about Krishna or about the Lord is called as Bhakti Yoga. How can we always think about Krishna according to the process or tradition of Bhakti Yoga? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. In other words, where every aspect of our life we do it as a service to the Lord. What we eat, we first offer to the Lord. Everything in our life is directed in establishing our relationship with the Lord. And you can be an IT professional. Congratulations, you get to keep your job according to Krishna. You can be a householder. You can be a granny or a grandpa, whatever you want to be in this world. You don't have to quit your swadharma. Continue with your passion for your swadharma and cultivate your spiritual practice by involving or taking out some time from your everyday schedule and remembering the Lord. Just like for maintaining the body, people do yoga and exercise. Similarly, for cultivating our spiritual side or spiritual nature, we take out some time from our everyday routine to connect ourselves with the Lord. And that is a process of Bhakti Yoga, where we gradually dovetail every aspect of our life in connection to the Lord, wherein your connection with the world is not lost. You're still very well connected with the world. Many times people become scared. कुछ छोड़ना तो नहीं पड़ेगा. तो छोड़ मत, तो पकड़ ले. जो छूटना होगा वो अपने आप छूट जाएगा. And what will go away from our life? All our bad habits, the things, bad behaviors, the conducts that really troubles our life. And what to speak of the past sinful reactions. The yoga that establishes our soul's love and service for the Lord is called as Bhakti Yoga. Coming to the conclusion, can I practice Bhakti Yoga in a family life? Why not? Did Arjuna become a sannyasi after Bhagavad Gita? No, he remained a householder. That's the whole thing. You don't have to give up anything. You just have to add Krishna in your life. How do you add Krishna when you don't have time? A lot of people say this thing, how can I get time to practice Bhakti Yoga? You only have to give up one thing, www. Give up that and you have all the time. I am not restricting your internet access. What I am indicating is, give up your worry time, give up your waste time, not work time, don't give up your work time, but the thing is that we overthink about it. Just manage that and you will have enough time. How many of us worry every day? The things that we worry on every day, right? All of us. How many of us we agree that every day I waste substantial amount of time? That is the time you just chant Hare Krishna. Can you imagine you're giving your waste time to Krishna, Krishna is still willing to accept it. He is not taking you the most precious time of your life or day. That he says, you handle what you can handle. Let me start from the things where you're wasting. And for that, you got to keep your smartphone little aside. थोड़ा सबसे पहले डिटैचमेंट स्मार्टफोन से. ज़्यादा हम शरीर के पास रखते हैं तो अटैचमेंट बहुत बढ़ गया है. Keep it away for a while, that will help. Is spirituality a retirement program? Not at all. Life is a preparation, and death is an examination, which means it should be practiced as soon and as young we are. Therefore, we have this bhakti school where the challenges that we faced while we grew up, so that if they are trained up in this age, they don't have to go through the mistakes that we made. Wouldn't every parent would want that for their child? They shouldn't do the mistakes that we did. So we have a training program for them also, so they also get connected at their level and practice it. What should I do now? After knowing all this thing, where we're coming to the conclusion of first part or section of Bhagavad Gita, understanding yoga means to connect or establish relationship with the Lord, and we have to control our mind. If mind is not controlled, life's experience becomes extremely diluted. What should I do now? You got to do 4 things in your life. 4 things, if possible, on an everyday basis. What is first? Is a simple formula called as A, B, C, D formula. You have got a pen and paper, write it down. Kali Yuga memory is short term, you will forget after a while. A stands for association. Hare Krishna. Chanchalam hi manaha Krishna. This is how the mind fickles about. Okay, what am I talking about? A for association, which means saintly association. You have many associations in your life. Can you add some saintly association in your life on an everyday basis? Now, in this online era, you can get all that saintly association through online platforms also. Which means every day you can spend 15-20 minutes to half an hour listening to some wisdom talks through this online initiatives. You will find enough on the YouTube and Facebook like that. Even if, so nothing, no direct association is available near to your accommodation. B, book reading. Can I take a commitment in my life to take one wisdom book and spend 15 minutes only, 1-5 to be precise, not 50. Just begin our journey with 15 minutes of reading a wisdom book. Can I take that commitment? Again, it's our onus. Can I do that? If you don't have a book, go back at the table behind. You'll find many interesting books for yourself, and which when you begin to read, you'll find it. I'll tell you one thing. The nature of the mind is, if it is good, it always gives excuses. अभी क्या जल्दी है? करते हैं ना? अगले हफ्ते आऊँगा तब कर लूँगा. अभी क्यों लेनी है बुक? वैसे भी बहुत बिजी हूँ मैं. बहुत ऑफिस में काम चल रहा है, घर में बहुत है. अगले हफ्ते कर लेंगा. So I say that this whole idea of just do it, junk that, trash it, just start it. Don't think about it. Unfortunately, we overthink about the good things and we stop thinking when it is about wrong actions. That's how the mind functions. C is for diet. C is for chanting. Bring in this practice of chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra in your life. Some of you have been connected for a while. How many of you here every day chant maybe 15 minutes and more Hare Krishna Mahamantra on a regular basis every day? Oh, that's majority. So minority should also pick it up quickly. Start chanting on a regular basis. And D for diet. Krishna says, Patram Pushpam Phalam Toyam Yome Bhaktya Prachati. Well, that's going to come in 9th chapter. In the 3rd chapter, Krishna says about whatever is offered in yajna, only that should be honored. And what is offered in yajna is always a vegetarian diet. So, diet plays a very, very vital role. If we can move from the non-vegetarian to the vegetarian diet, it will reduce the impact of passion within us, and it helps cultivating goodness. Again, is a subject matter which we'll be discussing in the 2nd part of Bhagavad Gita, 3rd part of Bhagavad Gita, where the subject matter of goodness, passion, ignorance is discussed in detail. But these are the 4 things that we can begin with. I'm pretty sure these 3 things you can bring in very quickly because it hardly involves any changes. Here, some changes could be required that you can take your time. But if you can begin with these three things, you got it. A for association, B for books, C for chanting, and D for, this is the reference, and D for diet. That is Krishna Prasadam. And like this, if we apply positive treatment on an everyday basis, I promise you from my end, it's not promise from my end, it is actually Krishna's promise. Name bhakta pranashyati. My followers never perish. If you follow what Krishna says, you will see the life change, life gets transformed. But you have to apply it. You have to apply the medicine, you have to apply the prescription. With that, we come to the conclusion of this topic called as Dhyana Yoga. And just to give you a little heads up, this coming month is Gita Jayanti. Gita Jayanti means the celebration of the appearance of Bhagavad Gita. On Mokshada Ekadashi day, Krishna spoke the message of Bhagavad Gita, which is on 23rd of December. So on that occasion, we are conducting a 3-session program wherein I'll be speaking about the complete Bhagavad Gita. So what we did right now in the 6th section, for the first section, I'll be giving you another perspective of 1.5 hour sessions. This program will begin tomorrow evening. It will be in Hindi. ये program हिंदी में रहेगा, जहाँ हम प्रश्न उत्तर के रूप में, because originally it was question and answers. So I'm going to shortlist all the questions of Arjuna and give you perspective of Krishna's answers to give you a little summary so you become familiar. That program starts from tomorrow at 6:30. I just got my slide, so I'll make the announcement. The next is upcoming Vrindavan Yatra, 6th April to 13th April. Again, it is always the case. We have a Udupi Yatra coming at the end of December, and now people are trying to find a train ticket. And we have so many pending requests, and I have to tell them, I am not the son of railway minister. Don't keep bothering me कि टिकट लेकर आओ, टिकट लेकर आओ. तुम्हें जब बोला था तो टिकट बुक नहीं करा. अभी टिकट कहाँ से लेकर आए? So, you may come or not come. Take it as a friendly advice. Book a ticket and keep it. Cancellation fees is hardly anything. But these days, if later on, it's in April, which means 4 months, more than 4 months from now, if at that point in time you really feel a strong desire that I want to go, how can I miss it? And this is going to be our first ever trip to Vrindavan, going to be a very special one. And then don't come and ask me, I'm going to tell you the same thing. जाओ गाड़ी चलाओ. Though I'm telling people, जो भी आ रहा है, गाड़ी है, गाड़ी चला के लेके जाओ उडुपी. Don't come and ask me for the ticket. So that's about this. Shikarpo will give you more information on the counter. There is a particular group where we'll be sharing the information of the date when we have to book the tickets. So everyone books their tickets. Everything else is taken care by the Yatra team. Shikarpo, maybe you can make these announcements about value education contest. So along with Somnathji from ISRO chairman and also Dr. Vijay Bhatkarji, we have created a program that is called as Value Education Initiative. This is largely being conducted in the schools. The idea of this program is to encourage students to study the values, to inculcate those values in their life, and to invoke the interest in such subject matter. And the winners would be given prizes by the hands of Shri Somnathji. And he would personally be taking them on tour of ISRO Bangalore. So top 3 winners from each district would get a chance to visit ISRO Bangalore. And the gifts, there are very exciting gifts. These are details that Shikhar Prabhu can tell you on the table. So what all of you and how all of you can contribute in this particular initiative. Today is Saturday, right? Friday. I went Friday, yes? Yesterday I visited many schools in Hinjawadi and Perangut. This is a Jilla Parishad school, and there is some school called as New English School like that. And the students over there come from a very, very financially challenging background, where the principal was telling me that even their parents cannot afford their school books. So there, we're going to give them, we're going to sponsor these kids. This whole We have kit over there on the table also. Shikha will show you. So every student who enrolls in this competition, we give them a copy of Bhagavad Gita. We give them a value education booklet where they study and then attempt the quiz. And then there are a few other things like that, which this whole thing is actually comes to the cost of 250 rupees, which is for whole organization of this event, prizes and everything that happens. So we're going to sponsor that for them. So if you would wish, you can take part in this. And if you would like, you can come along with us in giving those kits to the students. And I can tell you, there is no better opportunity to really experience the joy when you see the kids pushing each other in the line to get the kit first. And they line up like in a big numbers. And they'll come and they'll have such a joy in their eyes because they really value it. They're getting as a gift. We give them a pen, we give them a chikki also, and many other things as a gift just to inspire them. So it's something where you can be part of this initiative. You can sponsor for kids. You can meet with Shikapu for more details. And you're welcome to come along with us. So I went on Friday. I'm going to go tomorrow. Every day I'm going to go in the morning. We go to the school hours and then meet with the principal like this. And if in case your kids are studying in some schools, give us the information of the schools. So we'll go and visit those schools also. So we like to conduct in as many schools. I'm targeting at least 2,000 students in this area, in this neighborhood, we should be able to reach and give this copy of Bhagavad Gita and the message of Bhagavad Gita. Do you think it's a good thing? It's needed in the society and the kids should get it from the early age before they become spoiled. So that's a humble initiative that we have taken, as an ISKCON has taken. And we are very glad we have some two great luminaries being part of this initiative. So that's the thing about this, and Hare Krishna. That's it for today. Thank you. Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada ki. Anyone has any question? Yes.
Hare Krishna Guruji. In the last verse, it is mentioned that Krishna has said we should meditate on him or ourselves. So, sorry, means
meditate on him within ourselves.
Within ourselves. Okay, I misunderstood. I have heard this also means earlier also that we should meditate on him. But what does exactly means? We should, for
Correct,
example,
correct.
if I have seen one photo of on some book, so there should be a photo here.
Correct. That's not the idea of meditation. Meditation means remembrance. So when Krishna says yoginam api sarvesham mad gatenantaratmana, which means we should be always connected with the Lord. Just like a beloved, he doesn't have to look at the photo of his or her beloved to remember. Within his heart or her heart, they are always thinking about their object of love. Yes or no? Like that. And how it happens and how it develops, that's a process called as meditation. That is called Bhakti Yoga. And for that, we chant the holy names. So when we cultivate this practice of chanting the names of the Lord every day, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. When you call the name of Krishna and Lord Rama, what would come in your mind? That is what's supposed to come. And that's how gradually this remembrance is cultivated.
No, means I mean, you said meditate on him. So I means I do meditation daily, but that we do close your eyes, focus on the breathing. I focus here. So during that time, is that verse is about that meditation on him, or it is general what you said?
You can do that meditation. That becomes part of Ashtanga Yoga.
Okay.
But the efficacy of it is very short-lived.
Okay.
The result of it would not be long-lasting. Whereas the idea is when you're doing meditation, the point is your mind should become free from all the clutters that is going through. Your mind should begin to become purified of all those bad thoughts, wrong desires. And for that, chanting the holy names of the Lord has been described in the scriptures is the best way to purify your mind. When the mind is purified, it's just something like that. You're driving your car in a rainy day. When the windshield is hazy, you cannot see clearly. And when you start the wiper, when your vision becomes clear, when the windshield is clear, then you can see clearly. Though that chanting of the holy names of the Lord is just like a wiper which is cleaning the windshield of our consciousness. And when consciousness is purified, then we can see the Lord clearly. Now, the process of this pranayama, it also clears the consciousness, but that's a very, very slow process. That's the only difference. That's the point I made. This Ashtanga Yoga is a very long process. So, what is the shortest and the easiest process in today's day and time when we don't have time? So, those in the past who have practiced this process of pranayama and meditation, they have practiced this for hundreds and thousands of years. These are the examples from the Itihasa where we know of people who have practiced it. But the process which is given of chanting the holy names, there it is mentioned within one lifetime we can attain that result. How long is the life today? It's hardly 60, 70. So it's about what is the quickest and the easiest method. Not that it's wrong, but it's very long. Okay.
Thank you, Hare
It's just
Krishna.
like you're staying on the 20th story. You prefer to walk or you would prefer to take a lift? Lift is good, it takes you easily there. Walking also you will reach, but unnecessarily going to exhaust you is going to take a lot of time. That's the point there. It both takes you to the same goal, one quickly, one long. It takes a lot of time. Anything else?
Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Guruji.
Yes.
When we suffer a lot, so many people will tell that God is testing your patience. So, what's your opinion on that? Like He's testing your patience, you will get your day. Your
That
day
may
will
be a
come.
way of just encouraging you to hold on by saying that somebody or God is testing your patience. In general, God is not involved in our day to day life. He has no reason to be involved. Just like the Prime Minister of our country, is he involved with what is happening at Hinjawadi's junction? It's a job of a traffic police. Maybe he's involved in the sense the laws have been made under his direction. Similarly, everything what happens in this creation, different laws have been created under the direction of the Lord. But the Lord is not involved. Now, the traffic police here would not do anything to you if you follow the signal.
Yeah.
But if you violate the signal, the traffic police will catch you. So who is at mistake here? The traffic police or you?
Yeah, mine.
If you violate it, you get caught. So if somebody is going through suffering in our life, it is not sent by God.
Yeah.
It is created by my own actions. Therefore, I am punished in the form of suffering. That is called as law of karma. Now, all these subject matter becomes very easy, or you can say taken care very nicely, when a person takes shelter of the Lord. In Ramayana, there's a very beautiful verse comes when Lord Ram, twice it said, once to Hanumanji, second to Vibhishan at the time of the war, and one at the beginning. Lord Ram said, even if Ravana at this point of time would come and take my shelter, I am willing to forgive him for what all he has done. And what all he did, he abducted Mother Sita. What all heinous crime can he do? And Lord Ram said, I am willing to give him protection. Which means whatever wrong has been done by Ravana would be completely wiped off. Therefore, Krishna says, Sarva dharman parityaja mam ekam sharanam vraja. Aham tvam sarva papi. Those who take my shelter, I completely clean up whatever past sinful actions and reactions they have done. And that's how Krishna comes into our life. Okay.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. So we are already late and we'll conclude here. Thank you all for your kind attention. So as such, we are concluding this first level of Bhagavad Gita program. The focus was on understanding yoga. We'll continue this subject matter again in January onwards. Probably in the first week or the second week, we'll make an announcement. And however, in the remaining weeks of December, we'll have the Bhagavad Gita series, Sampurna Bhagavad Gita.